All right, I'm told that we're live. Welcome to 2019. Thank you for your patience. We have so much today. We had a lot of little setup stuff to do today to get ready for you. We've got a couple of demos we want to show you, and we wanted to make sure that those run as smoothly as we can. It is a brand new year. We're really excited. We're entering the 4th year for the Meraki Quarterly, and I'm delighted to say there's over 1,000 of you out there listening to the Quarterly today. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join us to learn about what has been happening at Cisco Meraki. So very happy New Year to you from all of us here, and also from this cat. We have a photo contest we run every quarter now for the front page slide of the Quarterly. And so we run that on the Meraki community itself. And so Andrew was the lucky winner this time. We picked out what is a beautiful scene. Frankly, I would love that view from my desk, being able to see both the cat and the Meraki dashboard. What more could you possibly ask for? All right, let's get things rolling. I want to just recap a couple of what sets the Meraki Quarterly apart from one of our regular webinars. This one is really targeted at our established Meraki customers and partners. If you are brand new to Meraki, we're really very happy to welcome you today. Thanks for joining us. You may find some of the content in here is a little bit sort of heavy going if you're brand new, because we're assuming prior knowledge of Meraki and probably prior use as well. If you are new, then please just soak up what you can and then come back to one of our regular webinars. We also have equipment that we like to give away to people attending for the first time so they can get acquainted and comfortable with Meraki equipment. So really happy to have you on board today, as I said. We're looking back over the last calendar quarter of 2018. So this is really important. It is designed to be a retrospective look back rather than a roadmap session. So that's why we've highlighted that in green. We know some of you out there will absolutely ask us about what's coming, but we reserve the right to completely ignore those questions as we go through. But we do have a panel with us today, quite a few of us in the room here, and we're going to do our best to keep on top of the questions that you have to share with us. Please use the Q&A tab in WebEx to ask your questions, and we'll get to those as quickly as we can. We'll try and share some of those questions with you towards the end of the hour. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to our first presenter today. That's Scott, who's going to give us an update on the Meraki wireless product.
Thanks for the intro, Simon. So I'm Scott Wierstra. I'm the product manager on the wireless networking side, focused on software. We have a couple short updates for you this quarter for things we released in the last 3 months, because Simon always stresses that this is a roadmap-free zone. As a PM, it's always challenging not to say roadmap stuff. So one major update we've done is we've released new floor plans for Meraki. So the nice thing on this is the wireless team is actually responsible for floor plans. And as with the release of MV, all of a sudden we end up in this scenario where locationality of devices becomes important holistically through the portfolio. So with the new floor plans, you can now map your wireless switching and cameras within the Meraki dashboard, and this can now be accessed through the network-wide menu. I think this is a great update. It makes us more like the platform stronger overall and starts to stitch together the MV and MR story. In addition to the floor plans, we've also extended our new maps into the location heat maps. So this was released just before Christmas. It again uses the same infrastructure and framework we built the maps on in floor plans. So overall, like the massive update on maps across Meraki has been driven by the wireless team, and we're pretty excited to get these updates out. Next, I have an update from David on the MX side.
Hey everybody, this is David from the product marketing team for MX. This is virtually the only photo of me with a tie on in existence. So I've used that across multiple different places, including this quarterly update here. But I did want to provide a couple of updates on Meraki LTE. So for those of you who are not aware, we did launch a bunch of new MX models that have LTE modems integrated in back in August of last year. And towards the end of the year, so a few weeks ago, towards the end of December, we had a whole bunch of different regions and countries that became fully certified, and these models are now available in all of those countries. So whether it's North America, South America, Africa, Europe, Asia. There's still a few exceptions with places like Russia, China, and I think Brazil, but for the most part, we now have these LTE models available in almost every country. So that's really exciting for us as we see the growth of our LTE models, and also because we're going to see lots of different interesting use cases for them. And I did want to break out a couple that caught my attention over the last quarter that I thought were really interesting, where customers were using our new LTE models. One was a food processing company which was globally distributed, had multiple locations across South America, US, Asia, and Europe. And the reason they used LTE was they had one really stable uplink that they were paying for, and they really weren't too concerned about that going down, and they didn't want to pay a whole lot for that second uplink because the first uplink was pretty high quality. And so as they were surveying around different ISPs, they sort of found everything seemed to be too expensive. And so they ended up just adding an LTE backup link at low cost, and were able to really limit downtime and get good, consistent visibility of all their operations. The second one was a media company, which is really my favorite customer example with LTE. So this company had lots of different locations around the U.S. where they would be streaming live video back to their headquarters. So they would be out in different locations, capturing live video and needing to stream that back. And as you can imagine, if you're a streaming video or media company with live video, it's not great if your ISP goes down or your main line goes down. They also would occasionally be mobile and on the road, so finding an uplink to connect to would be pretty difficult. So they were able to use some of our new MX LTE models to provide that seamless experience with the streaming video. And then finally, we're definitely happy to see lots of major retail businesses rolling onto the MX LTE platform. So businesses that have hundreds of different locations around the country, around the world, as well as hundreds of teleworkers that are working from home that are using our Z-Series with LTE models to maintain connectivity during any outages and things like that. So really exciting to see all of these different use cases, and we're excited to see that continue to expand as the MX LTE platforms are available all over the world now. So I'd be remiss if I didn't mention to everybody, I hope you had a happy holidays, happy Christmas, New Year's a couple of weeks ago. I did want to share a quick holiday story from the Meraki side for MX, and it ties into intent-based networking. If you're not familiar with intent-based networking, it's a term that was coined by Gartner that says instead of trying to figure out constantly how to do things with your network, it's really more trying to figure out what you're trying to do with your network. And basically applying new technologies to business problems and providing business solutions. It's really not about you scrolling through syslogs and analyzing bits and bytes and configuring things in CLI. We really want the network to be able to do all of that for you and to basically have you say, you know, I have this intent with my network. I want to enrich the experience of my users, and for you to figure out less of how exactly to do that. That's what the dashboard is for. And one of the key points of intent-based networking is being able to do proactive troubleshooting. So with a lot of the features we've released with Meraki, like Wireless Health, Meraki Insight, a lot of that capability is there. So that being said, I did want to share a Christmas story that has to do with our MX models at Meraki. And we obviously had a really busy holiday season recently. The economy is back in full swing and people are out shopping. For those of you who are not in the U.S., we have a big shopping holiday the day after Thanksgiving at the end of November, which is called Black Friday. So this is the day when all the big deals are available at different retail locations, and people are fighting each other to get some of the new products that they can buy at low prices. So it's a really busy shopping day, which is great from a revenue perspective for retailers, but it's also really stressful for IT administrators because there's obviously a lot of strain and stress on the network as new clients get added. There's bandwidth challenges and everything. So the Meraki MX has always been really popular in retail just because of the simplicity, scalability, the visibility that you get, SD-WAN to allow for cost savings, LTE to reduce ISP-related issues like corrupted transactions that might happen if your ISP went down. But one of the things that we were really excited about during Black Friday was that with some of the capabilities that the Meraki dashboard has, we're able to analyze metadata across our different customers to be able to predict when customers might start having issues. And you can imagine Black Friday would be one of those days where there's a potential for there to be a lot of stress on those networks and to have issues with those networks. But we're definitely really excited to say that during Black Friday, none of our MX customers had any issues. Obviously, we had support that was there 24/7, available to jump in if any issues were to happen. But it was really exciting for us to see that with the Meraki dashboard, nothing went down on those different MX networks. And I did want to share a quick demo dashboard update here to kind of take a look at some of the data that is available in the dashboard, where you can view, whether your MX is maybe under more stress and strain, and give you some of that visibility. So here, jumping into the dashboard, there's a section if you go to Organization and then Summary Report. If you have an MX, you'll be able to see at the bottom, and it'll basically take an average over every minute and kind of pings the MX and sends you a signal either from 0 to 100 of how utilized that MX is. And if you start to see that the MX is utilized pretty regularly above 80%, it might be time for you to upgrade that MX to a newer model, because there's quite a bit of stress and strain that's happening on that device. So that's something to look at if you go to the summary report in your network. Another quick update from the MX side that I wanted to give is that if you have an MX, you may have noticed that the UI is slightly different. Instead of saying security appliance, it now says security and SD-WAN appliance. We've obviously rolled those two features together into the MX, and that's been the case ever since we released SD-WAN as a feature. But now we want to make that really visible in the dashboard, that the MX product is able to do both of those features. And if you go to configuration, there's a section called SD-WAN and traffic shaping that you can go take a look at. And this is where you would configure your different SD-WAN policies and settings. So it makes it a little bit easier for our customers to be able to navigate and see where you would configure your SD-WAN settings. Okay, so just to close out, there's a few upcoming events for the MX team that we will be attending. We definitely would like to say hi to you if you are attending these shows, or if you're interested in attending and learning how we relate to these different verticals and different shows. So the first one is NRF, which is a big retail show, which is happening January 13th. So coming right up, we'll have several MX representatives there. So if you want to hear more about our retail stories, about Black Friday and things like that, you can come talk to us there. We'll be at BET, the education show in London. So if you are in Europe and want to come chat with the MX team, we'll have some representatives there at the end of January. And then we have a couple of Cisco Lives coming up with Barcelona, Melbourne, and we'll also have people representing MX at Mobile World Congress and obviously at RSA in March, the big security conference that'll be right here in San Francisco. So looking forward to seeing everybody. But I'm going to pass this over to Shashwat now to give you an update on Insight.
Thanks, David. Hello, everyone. I'm Shashwat. I'm the product manager for Meraki Insight. A quick couple of updates from the Insight team for the last quarter. As some of you might recall, in the last quarter, when we conducted this webinar, we had announced the release of WAN Health. So we've made a few very interesting additions to WAN Health over the course of the last quarter. First and foremost, behind the scenes, we've made this a lot more scalable. So now it really doesn't matter if, as a customer, you have 50 uplinks or 5,000 uplinks. It's one page where you can get unprecedented visibility into the connectivity behind all of those uplinks, which you cannot get anywhere else in dashboard. It doesn't matter if you have thousands and thousands of uplinks, the page can load in a matter of seconds. Imagine that kind of scale and real-time visibility. One of our largest customers has even, come out with a case study. They actually used WAN Health to diagnose a problem in a remote branch that they did not even know existed. Just because it was so remote, it wasn't used all too often. They used WAN Health. They saw that one of the secondary uplinks was flapping, very often over the course of the last week, and they used WAN Health to diagnose and remediate. Other than scalability, we have also introduced a lot of interesting features to make this even more useful from a troubleshooting perspective, and I'll get down to the details of the features in just a little bit when I get to the demo. There you go. So the first interesting statistic that we have added to WAN Health is the jitter of an uplink. Now, jitter is very, very interesting to measure for anyone who is looking into voice over internet. So we expect this to be going forward to be very useful for anyone who's looking into voice deployments. The second interesting thing, if you click on this button right here on the right-hand side, is this thing called as a ping destination. What this really means is that we are giving you the ability to monitor connectivity not just to the default gateway 8888, but to anything else of your choice. You can configure this by going to the traffic shaping page, and once you add the relevant destination to the traffic shaping page, it will appear in this drop down, and then you can monitor connectivity to pretty much any IP of your choice. It could be an internal destination, it could be an external destination. It gives you a lot of flexibility to look at connectivity to the internet or connectivity to a local server. Next, we've also added a column for total usage. What this really means is that any customer who really wants to know how much of data they're sending over an uplink over the course of 1 week, just to make sure that their SLAs and their billing is in sync, they can do so very quickly and very easily. We've also added statistics from a historical perspective. If you might recall, the last time we spoke, most of these statistics were real-time, loss, latency, jitter. Now, if you select the 2-hour, 1 day, or 1 week window, you can get average statistics over that relevant period. So again, this is very relevant if you want to answer the question, which of my uplinks are performing poorly over the course of the last 1 week. You can sort them very easily by just clicking on any one button, and it answers the question, which are my top 5 worst performing uplinks. And last but not the least, as you can see from the overall UI, it's much more usable. We've made many small tweaks in the background, such as removing any dormant link. So all in all, the net result is that the UI is very usable and it's very intuitive. So we'd love if you give this a try and let us know what do you think about it. The other major update from Insight is that we have launched a new SKU. This is an extra small SKU, which is targeted for any kind of a Z3 or a Z3C deployment. The two major use cases for this SKU are if, as an organization, you have a network of teleworkers, you have two blind spots. The first blind spot is that you do not know what their ISP connectivity looks like, because obviously these teleworkers could be spread throughout a wide geographic region, and you'd want to track the connectivity of many different ISPs which are not under your control. So you can use WAN Health very easily to do that. And the second major use case is for all of these teleworkers, they're conceivably using some kind of mission critical traffic, such as Office 365 or your organization's ERPs or any other mission critical applications. You can use App Health to monitor the performance and troubleshoot those applications very easily. So as the name suggests, this is an extra small SKU. Its economics make more sense from the perspective of a Z3 user. So if you're interested, again, please reach out to us and we can provide you with more information. That's pretty much it from my side. I'll hand it over to Emily for SM updates.
Hi everyone, my name is Amelie and I'll be giving you guys an update for Systems Manager, Cisco Meraki's endpoint management solution. The first exciting update I'd like to share with you is a new feature on the applications page. As you know, customers like yourselves use tons of applications, and in the past, when it came to configuring and making changes to applications, you would have to do it one by one, which is not very feasible. And now, with our new bulk operations and improved search feature, you can select multiple applications and click the different options to configure tons of applications simultaneously. And with this added feature, we continue to make the dashboard more efficient and simpler to use. The second update is a new feature now on beta, so go check it out. It's called Target Groups. This is a feature under the Tag section of the Configuration tab. When we think about designing features, we build them with flexibility in mind, and we don't ever want to define how your organization looks like. And with Target Groups, it does exactly that. A target group is basically a combination of tags put together to make a specific group that can be used over and over again to push out any configuration changes. You no longer have to spend time applying actions to each tag. Instead, you can do so to multiple tags at once with a group you create. And finally, we have new control across operating systems. It is exciting to share that SM fully supports tvOS as our 6th operating system. tvOS has been highly popular in the educational, retail, and hospitality space, so we hope you will enjoy managing these devices with SM. I'd also like to reiterate from the previous quarterly that we have enhanced Windows 10 support, which ties in certificate installation, VPN support, and Sentry features. So please take a look if you haven't already. And lastly, we've got smoother enrollment with Android, as well as SCEP payloads for Android devices, which ultimately gives you the ability to upload certificates to Android devices more seamlessly. And this is a reminder of our customer success training. Basically, if you recently have bought 200 or more SM licenses, you are eligible to get this training. And this is a one-on-one session with a systems manager specialist who can go over how System Manager works and can do configurations for you. So definitely take part of that. And if we haven't contacted you for this training, please call our sales line or work with your account rep to get you on board. And that is it for Systems Manager. I'm passing it to Sarah Lynn for MV updates.
Thanks, Amelie. Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah Lynn, and I work with the MV team. Question to start off with, what have we been working on for MV? Well, the answer is a lot. We've got more hardware, more storage options, and more features that I'm really excited to share with you today. So first of all, I want to talk about the hardware. We released 2 new camera models as well as mounts last quarter, the MV22 and the MV72 cameras. They both have varifocal lenses with optical zoom. So in that sense, they're similar to our MV21 and MV71. But these cameras have 1080p high definition with HDR. They both have 256 gigabytes of solid-state storage on board. And they have the same built-in advanced analytics with machine learning as our MV12, as well as the wireless capabilities and the microphone. A note on the MV72, it is IK10 Plus and IP67 rated, making it a great option for areas where theft or vandalism risks are high, or outdoor areas where there are water, dust, heating concerns, things like that. The mount options, we released a few of those as well. So we have a wall mount arm for the 72 as well as a pole mount. and a wall mount for the MV12 and a wall mount bracket for the MV72. We also announced a new storage option, our Cloud Archive. So we now have the ability to do 90 and 180-day Cloud Archive options. This is flexible licensing, so this is a little bit different than traditional Meraki licensing, and this is available on a per-camera basis. So you can see the little screenshot on the right there, the top one. If you go in a dashboard, you can select your camera and then actually assign the license to that specific camera. So it does not have to be on all of your cameras, just the ones that you need that additional storage on. And it will record 24/7 to the on-camera storage and the cloud. So you'll have dual backup for as long as you can store footage on the camera, and then either 90 or 180 days 24/7 storage in the cloud. This is available globally now and works on all MV models, so not just our second generation, but also our MV21 and MV71. And the storage is in partnership with Microsoft Azure. So I want to talk about some new features now. A couple of things we did release last quarter. One is digital zoom. So if you are in the browser, you can digitally zoom up to 12x on both live and historical footage on any of your cameras. And we also released rotating video walls. So this is a great feature if you have a lot of cameras, a lot of video walls to look at. You have the ability to configure auto rotation. So again, on the screenshot on the left, you can kind of see, you go to the video wall, start video rotation, choose the video walls that you want to cycle through and the duration, and save it and go. So it'll automatically switch through the selected video walls at the specific interval that you've decided. So the next thing we released, or feature-wise, has to do with our analytics. Now, it was really exciting when we released the object detection people counting on the MV12 last year. And we've given you the ability to get more granular, more detailed information with zones. So you can see here on the left, you have the ability to configure specific areas within the frame of the camera that you want to monitor people counting or object detection inside of. So here we've got a screenshot of one of the cameras at a retail store. You can see you've got a few different sections, department, POS, and then the queue. And you can monitor people in just that specific area. So on the right, you'll see the people counting option, and you can choose which zone you want to view people in. So you can get a little more specific, looking at just that area instead of the whole entire frame. Now, along the same lines, we've also announced MV Sense, which is the ability to get this people counting information out of the camera and into a third-party application. So this gives you the ability to kind of solve those tougher business problems, to understand more about what is going on within an area, and match that information up with other systems. So the way that works, very high level, we take all the information that we're getting from the camera, we're running that through our MV computer vision machine learning algorithm, and we can spit it out to you in 3 different ways. The first is a historical aggregate. So how many people were here at this specific time? The second is a current snapshot. How many people are here right now? And the third is a real-time feed. So we'll give a sub-second feed of the people as well as the location where they're located on an XY axis within that frame, and that information can be inputted into third-party applications. So what can you build with this? Well, beyond the practical applications that you can think of, maybe retail, understanding how many people are in a department or how many people are in a line, restaurants, what tables are freed up so you can seat new people in, or public safety, understanding maybe after an incident in a building, how many people are still in a building and where they are. There's some fun things that our team here at Meraki has done as well. So the first that you see there in one of our events that we were at, we built a light that actually changed colors depending on the density of people in an area. The second one was for a recruiting event that we had, or an engineering recruiting event that we had in London. A very entrepreneurial person built a Nerf gun that was able to track where people were located as they came in to register and shot them with Nerf darts. So I promise you, no recruits were injured in this, although we all had a good laugh. And the third is what we like to call the world's most useless piano. So what we did there is that we mapped a specific area within the frame of the camera to a specific key on the piano. And what happened was, that's Tom, one of our engineers there, ran back and forth across the room, the cameras tracked him, and then we played a different note. So he was able to make some not quite beautiful music, but definitely interesting and fun music based on that, based on the MVSense API. So really, we give you this information, and what you can build is only limited by your imagination. So why does this matter, back on a serious note? Well, this enables more integrations in with the Cisco Kinetic portfolio, for one. It eliminates more infrastructure. So traditionally, to get this type of information out of a system, you would require a lot of servers, a lot of processing power, and a lot of expense. And with MVSense, we've eliminated the need for that. And it can help accelerate business outcomes so you can get to where you need to go faster. And with that, we'll turn it over to Simon for MS updates.
Thanks, Sarah Lynn. I'm not quite sure how I follow stories of Nerf guns and turning lights on with an update on the Meraki switch, but I'm going to do my best. We certainly do have plenty that's been happening on the switch in the last quarter, so let me just recap some of that. Some of you will, of course, seen our major announcement that we made back, I think it was around the end of October, early November, for the brand new MS355 series switches. So they look just like every other switch we've been installing forever, don't they? But let's be honest, these are really moving things forward in terms of multi-gigabit density in particular. And so I don't think I need to explain. I'm sure many of you are familiar with the increasing performance that we're expecting out of our switch network. All of these products that you've seen today, none of them can really function well without a good, solid, robust, and high-performance switch network behind it all. So we always need to keep that into consideration. With the advent of 82.11ax that's starting to appear on the horizon now, we really are now requiring faster than a 1 gig connection out of our switch ports going out to those access points. And so you can think of this really as the ideal model to start laying the groundwork for your migration to the next generation of wireless that's going to be coming to all vendors over the next year or two. So just to break that down a little bit further, we of course have plenty of choice for you. Previously, we just had one switch that supported a multi-gigabit with 8 ports on it, and now we've really increased that density up to a maximum of 24 mgig ports on a single one of these switches. So again, you are going to be looking at a higher density of mgig going forward. That's almost inevitable, and so definitely think you should take this one into consideration when you're looking at your switch options. And of course, all of these switches, like everything else that we sell at Meraki, are all supported by the same feature set that you know and love already, and we're continuing to add to that as time goes by. And speaking of software, the next thing I want to talk about is some of the additions that we've made on the software side for the switch recently. They're small things, but little small things start to add up to a much better experience for you as a network administrator, and that's what we're always focused on here at Meraki. So, troubleshooting scenario. Who's been on the receiving end of this one before? A switch that can't access the cloud, or any device that can't access the cloud. It's obviously something that's extremely important to us and has been throughout our life here at Meraki since 2006, because of course we built everything around this cloud architecture. So we do need to be mindful and think about how we mitigate any risks that come along with that architectural decision that we've made. So the question is, how do we retrieve diagnostics from a switch that's offline? Previously, that's been challenging because you've had to really have a connection out to the cloud. That's where all of that diagnostics data has been held. But we have moved that forward now. So we were introducing something called the Support Data Bundle. It's a very straightforward feature, but I think you'll find, if you're ever unlucky enough to be in this situation, a very powerful and well thought through feature as well. So what this enables you to do is to locally download diagnostic data that you can then share with the Meraki support team as you need to do so. So we have a lot of log files that are being captured here, and they include things like port configurations, layer 2 and layer 3 tables, dashboard connectivity, and hardware status. Now, very importantly, from a security perspective, remember that everything that we do, we think very carefully about how we secure your very private information. And so in this particular case, the contents of this downloaded file can only be decrypted by a current Meraki support team member. So that is a really important point here. This file is not for you to access directly, but is to share with our support team via another network so that they can help you troubleshoot your device and get it back online again. That's really to help protect you and your very sensitive information. Moving on, this one's kind of small, but again, every little step that we take helps our customers. So if you have problems with connectivity on any of your switch devices, as you know, today you can just hover your mouse over the connectivity bar and you can see whatever the issue is. It might be that the switch was being rebooted to take up some new firmware. Maybe there was a temporary wiring issue. Whatever it is, you're able to identify and retrospectively do so as well. What has been happening with that switch. I actually love this feature because rather than having to go and look through a bunch of error logs and traipse through pages and pages of that, here you can see at a glance, okay, I had a problem at this point in time with this particular switch. And when you line up a list of all of your switches and you see any particular issues you may have had, at a glance, it's very, very powerful to be able to see what the problem is and how they may correlate to each other, and thereby how you can troubleshoot and fix it. So what we've done here is just simply add a little more detail. We can now include CRC Error Detection when we hover our mouse over there. So if we are getting a lot of CRC errors, then we can obviously now see that additional detail. So that's one extra piece of information that we're able to interrogate and provide to you as feedback from the system. This means that even if you have healthy connectivity, you may be still experiencing poor throughput. This is one of the potential causes for that. Among many, it's going to help you for sure to narrow down what the problem is. And then finally, on switch updates, I just want to highlight for you something we added again late last year, and that is an enhancement to the topology capability that we have. This amazing tool that prevents you from having to build network diagrams of your own using tools like Visio. Obviously, still an option for you, but this is a live dynamic topology view that you're looking at. Previously, that was a layer 2 thing that was mostly focused around connectivity. We've now moved that on, and so we can now include things like IP addresses, routes, interfaces, VLANs, and so on. So just a little bit more valuable information with every step that we take on these products. Now, I want to introduce Tony. Tony is a veteran of the Meraki Quarterly. He hasn't been with us for a little while, but he's back today, and we're introducing something brand new to the Quarterly for 2019, and that's what we've been doing on our APIs. Now, Sarah Lynn talked a little bit about what we've been doing on APIs for MV, but there's much more to this story, and to fill us in on what's happening there, I'm going to hand it over to Tony.
Awesome. Thanks so much for that introduction, Simon, and it's great to be back with everyone today. So as Simon mentioned, on the API side, we actually have 3 API services, and we're seeing quite significant adoption by our customers there. In fact, roughly 20% of our customers are using the Meraki APIs in some fashion, which is quite significant, and it really indicates a shift in the way that you are all kind of interacting with the Meraki Cloud services. So with that, we really wanted to start to provide an update as part of the quarterly on all the various enhancements that we make, not only to the dashboard API, which is our RESTful-based architecture API that lets you provision and monitor and report on things, but also our other APIs, which include the scanning API as well as the Meraki Captive Portal API. So with that, I'm going to go through kind of a timeline here, which starts us back in October and kind of takes you through a variety of the enhancements that we've made. And then I'm also going to point everyone to a few resources that you can really use to not only kind of stay tuned in these enhancements, that they're very quick moving. So we have a changelog that we maintain for API enhancements. And also, if those of you out there that are active developers or looking to create solutions that are a little bit more tailored to your organization's needs, There's a host of resources out there to get you started. It starts with, if you're a beginner to API and development, and it's also designed for more power users. So the green are entirely new endpoints and features, and the blue are enhancements to existing ones. And we start with an entirely new alerting framework. This is probably the biggest announcement, I would say, that we've had in the last quarter, because it allows for you to really simply and nimbly subscribe to Meraki cloud-based alerts in any receiving system or service that you choose. So a really great example is one where we've had a lot of customers start to use or integrate Meraki's cloud services with, say, for example, PagerDuty. PagerDuty is a great way to triage and respond to network-based alerts, and many of you know that we've got a really comprehensive list of alert types that you can subscribe to. For example, tell me when a really important device like a printer or a point-of-sale system loses network connectivity. That's an alert that's available. And formerly, you would receive that in email form. Now, you can also subscribe to it as a webhook, and that opens up an entire world of possibility. And there's an entire kind of integration step that's possible now, where you can have Meraki's cloud services talk directly to PagerDuty and then triage, entirely based on your organization's needs. Really, really kind of important update, and we're seeing massive adoption around webhook alerts, and I'll talk a bit about how you can get more information. Now, paired with that, we also wanted to make sure that it was possible to configure those alerts through the API. As is natural with API use, a lot of customers that are larger in size and scale, whether that be lots of sites or a few very large sites, are really our kind of API users. And so we wanted to make it really simple and easy for you to be able to not only receive those alerts through Webhook, but also be able to set up and configure those. So we released a series of new endpoints that allow for you to do that really seamlessly. Kind of again, same collection, we released the ability to set up and configure syslog server. This is useful for customers that have lots of sites when you want to make a single pointed change. Perhaps you have an IP change that you need to make, but maybe you have 50 or more sites. Rather than go into dashboard and really just do that repetitive action 50 times, if you're not using a product like templates, you can now do that through the API, and you can do it in a minute or less using this new endpoint. Similarly, if you want to go in and turn on VLAN-based capabilities on the Meraki security appliance, you can now do that through the new Enable VLANs endpoint. You can toggle firewalled services through the MX-based API endpoint that lets you do that. We've also added parameters so that you can, we talked about auto tags a little bit earlier in the session. This is kind of a complementary to that and lets you also list and filter based off of those tags. We let you now create Meraki camera and systems manager networks using the API, which is an entirely new enhancement. And then MV Sense is the other real hallmark announcement, I would say. This is a kind of a pivot for Meraki in the sense that we're not only giving you access to the raw data, but we're actually giving you access to the cloud or really edge compute process data on the cameras. You saw some super fun examples from Sarah Lynn, but we've seen kind of a whole myriad of really powerful examples where you're starting to use the camera not just as a kind of security or surveillance device, but as a real intelligent kind of data sensor, right? And being able to say across that really rich, high-density video frame, tell me when there's a person in that frame, where they are, when they entered and exited. So again, it opens up a whole wealth of opportunity there in terms of what your business might need. The other kind of really important endpoint that we released if you're an MX customer is our loss and latency time series endpoint. Just to kind of summarize what this makes possible, in Dashboard, we allow for you on the Live Tool Uplink tab to be able to see real-time and historical trending on how the MX's uplinks behaved, right? Did they have 0% loss, or did they actually have some loss? And that is, of course, kind of data gold for IT operations teams as part of the lifecycle management flow. And so what we wanted to do was kind of liberate that data through the API and make it possible for you to not only ask Meraki's cloud, hey, tell me what the loss and latency on this device was, but actually zoom and pan back and forth from real time all the way back to up to a year. Really powerful, especially if you have integration platforms like Xenos or other systems that you use to manage multiple different network components. This API now, again, opens that data up so that you can pull it into whatever system you need. There's some new parameters that were added to third-party VPN peer configuration. So if you do use a third-party peer and you need to set that up across lots of sites, that's really an important update there. We allow for you to now turn on custom splash pages through the API. Again, really nice if you're wanting to do that on lots of sites. And then this might seem small, but we've had a lot of IT organizations use the Meraki notes field on devices. This can be super useful, say, if you have a switch that maybe is acting up and one of your IT team members isn't quite sure if it's got an issue, you can leave a nice long-form note in dashboard. That's now possible to do through the API. Lots of updates, but again, like I said before, webhook-based alerting and the mechanisms behind that are really, I would say, the kind of North Star announcement that we've had from the last 3 months. So I wanted to just make sure everyone was aware of that. We've got lots of content and detail available, so if you want to learn a bit more, first off, we've got 2 paradigms when it comes to alerting and monitoring. The first is I want to know over the last 24 hours, did I or did I not meet my SLAs? And that's what we refer to as historical reporting or trending. And that's where the RESTful architecture, the dashboard API, can come in. Now, if you want to get more real-time monitoring and alerting, and these are not mutually exclusive, these are actually really nice pairings, then you want to use the webhook architecture that we've just talked about. Tell me when the device goes offline, tell me when it comes back online, and of course, you want to triage those types of things based on your needs. Here's a couple of examples. So we've got lots of integrations out there. These are all in the open source ecosystem. We've got some cool ones that were done using, say, for example, WebEx Teams, where you've got your entire IT org in a room. All the alerts are coming in really seamlessly. And then we've even got some kind of flexible reporting capabilities as well. So with that, if that piqued your interest at all, or if you're already an avid API, or if you're in that 20% that uses our API already, hopefully these were helpful and kind of useful updates for everyone. For more information, definitely check out Meraki.io. We've got 2 sides to this. We've got kind of the turnkey technology partner offers that leverage the APIs to provide solutions, and then we've also got a lot of developer resources. And with that, hopefully that was a useful update. I want to thank everyone, and I'm going to hand it back off to Simon now.
Thanks, Tony. That was a very exciting update. I think one of the really interesting developments that we've done at Meraki and decisions that we've made is to really think carefully about how we can help you as network administrators. We know that you have a lot on your plate and increasing demands, software in your own businesses that you're trying to use to help serve your customers better. We often refer to this as digital transformation. I'm sure you love that term as much as we do. We're trying to think about how we can help you with that, and I think the APIs are a very important tool set that can significantly help you get data back from the environment you're operating in. Sarah Lynn and Tony went through some fantastic examples, but they exist right across the portfolio. So if you haven't really taken any time yet to have a look at the APIs, I would definitely encourage you to do so. All right, so let's have a look. We have covered a lot of material today, and I want to thank you all for your participation. We've had so many questions come in on the Q&A. I think one of the interesting debates that started right at the beginning of the quarterly today was what hold music we should use next time. We had various suggestions. I heard easy listening came in. I heard heavy metal came in as well. I think we had a couple of votes for that. So let me see what we can do for next time around. Let's get into some of the technical questions that you guys asked during the session, and I've got a few here that I want to just quickly go through. So first question that came in was asking about cables on the switch and why we don't include cables in the larger switch platforms. So the thing to bear in mind is that as you do your switch deployments, I'm sure those of you who've actually deployed a whole bunch of switches, you will know that it's almost inevitable you're going to end up with a lot of cables that you don't simply need in your topology that you've designed. So we're trying to be thoughtful about that and trying to be thoughtful about the amount of waste that we create as we design all of our products. And you will see, for example, biodegradable bags that we use for cabling and so on some of the products. This is something which our hardware team takes very seriously. And so, of course, the cables are available to you, and we take into consideration the impact on the overall sort of list price of the switch. But for those where we don't consider it to be a requirement to have it bundled in, and we think there's a high risk of waste, then we simply make that an optional separate item. Okay, I've got a question here about the MX. Do we offer a mobile or portable MX LTE router? For example, some of the other vendors out there have models like this. I actually think of the smaller Z models that we sell at Meraki as essentially portable in a sense. So we have, for example, an emergency response team at Cisco. They're called TACOPS. You can learn all about them online, TACOPS. And they actually use some of these products out in the field where they're doing sort of disaster recovery situations, or where perhaps we're getting large numbers of asylum seekers in a particular camp. We've set up sort of impromptu networks there, and that requires a lot of mobility and a lot of practical, flexible deployments. This is where Meraki shines, as you all know very well. And so the TACOPS team at Cisco uses Meraki product quite extensively to help them deploy quickly in these emergency type situations. So a question about the wireless on the MX and whether we can mesh that and manage that together with the regular MR models. The answer to that question is no. It's not something that we would recommend either. So if you are considering a deployment to, let's say, a branch site, you want to think right at the beginning, is one access point going to be enough for the physical space that I'm deploying into? If the answer is yes, then one of the wireless MX models may well be all that you need to deploy there. But if you think you are going to go beyond that, you really want to be thinking about a proper Wi-Fi deployment at that point with all of the flexibility that we have built into the MR family in terms of high performance channel bandwidth considerations and just generally good design of your Wi-Fi space. As you all know, I'm sure, deploying Wi-Fi for coverage is a relatively straightforward thing. We've all been doing that for many, many years now. But really getting a high performance and great experience for end users on Wi-Fi is not quite so straightforward. And so we try to make the MR platform really provide all the tools to make that as easy as we possibly can for you. So recommendation in that case would be to get a regular wired MX and then to just simply use the regular MR access points if you're going beyond 1 AP. Okay, so great question here. We've got a customer who has an existing camera system and is looking to migrate to the Meraki MV. Awesome news. And they want to know if it's possible to repurpose their existing wiring. Now, there is some very good news on that. We launched a product back in, I think it was August last year, which enables you to do exactly that. So you can take the existing cabling that you already have out to your camera and repurpose it for delivering power to the MV cameras. We then use a special module to provide PoE onto the camera itself so that we can power the camera, and then we can use the wireless capability built into the new cameras at Meraki to actually backhaul the video data itself. So this means no rip and replace of cabling, and those of you who've done that, you know the expense and the time that's involved in doing so. So I think you'll find that's a really practical solution for you. Another question on the camera here. Sarah Lynn touched on the cloud archive capability that we introduced. There is a separate license for that, and really that's because obviously we're talking about a lot of potentially storage here. At Meraki, we have provided cameras that are capable of storing up to 100 days of footage directly on the camera itself. If you are needing to retain footage for a longer period than that, then that's really where Cloud Archive comes into its own for that subset of customers. We've actually found it's been a relatively small number of customers who need that capability, but obviously we wanted to provide the option for those who do need it. So that's why we have a separate license on that. Okay, it looks like we're just reaching the top of the hour, so I'm going to wrap things up now. I want to thank you so much for joining us today. We had a huge attendance, and it's just awesome to have such great support for the Meraki Quarterly. I really think it's packed with so much useful information, and I hope you found it a good use of your time today. From all of us here in the room, we want to wish you a very happy new year again, and let's get into 2019 and deploy some Meraki products. We'll speak to you again a quarter from now. Bye-bye for now.